Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Not For Nothing. Here you go, Adam. I should have given you that beforehand. Again, Adam Harmon is here helping me with the directing of the video. So I want to have my next guest who came up here from New York. I'm really happy you came up, by the way.
Me too, man.
Introduce himself. So why don't you give everybody a heads up on who you are?
My name is John Mesa. I'm from New York. I am the owner at No Idols Tattoo, and I'm also half of the Honest Tattooer podcast.
Okay. Don't look at anything because we're just talking.
Yeah.
So these things are going to make sure we stay in camera. Film's still moving. So yeah, because he's going to.
I don't know which camera's going to be.
That's what I'm saying. So don't even bother.
Yeah, that one was red though. So I went
I was going to say. But I'm hoping he bounces around quite a bit. So you've been in New York. You're from New York. You're from Queens originally.
No, actually, I was born in Dominican Republic, and I moved to New York when I was 12 years old.
Oh, so I thought you were a kid when you came into New York, like a child.
Like a child. No, I was like 12 years old. I learned English actually back in Dominican Republic.
Oh, okay.
So it was like coming here was a completely change of life for me and my family.
Oh,
it was wild times, yeah.
Yeah. So so my dad moved here when he was the first time 17, moved back to Italy, and then came back again when he was 21. And I mean, I know back then it was a major difference in the way things were done.
Yeah.
Him and his brother, like their family was already kind of established here, years before.
Yeah.
So he went right into, owning a restaurant. Him and his brother opened a restaurant.
Okay. But
again, I think back then it was a slightly different time. Now, with the amount of influx of immigrants and stuff like that, it's gotta be. Was it difficult, like coming here from Dominican Republic?
Man, so my family in Dominican Republic, both my mom and my aunts, they had, college education and had really good jobs in Dominican Republic. But when they decided to come here, it's like hitting a reset button. Like everything you've done, and you're gonna have to go back to school again. You have to learn a new language. When my mom came here, she didn't know how to speak the language yet.
This would have been what year? Like in the 80s?
This like late 90s.
That's
late 90s.
Super
young.
Yeah.
I'm 41. I'm not super young.
You're still a lot younger than I am.
I'm 41.
15 years younger than I am.
I still feel good at 41 though. Now I starting to feel the days that I'm like, oh man, I get tired easier.
Oh, wait till you turn 50. It gets 110 times worse, man.
Man, but like it was crazy to then have our lives change. We had a house, so then when my family first came here, we had to live in a 2-bedroom apartment, and it was like 6 of us,
Oh, wow, okay.
So it was it was rough, especially because I'm 12 years old.
Where did they move to?
So we moved to Westchester County, actually, and we lived in this town called Mamaroneck, which is a small town, Westchester County. My mom worked at a grocery store while I walked to school. We had kind of that's how we started off here. My mom would go to school at night to learn English. It was hard times.
So now, how did you get into you went to school in Mamaroneck then, or?
I started going to school in Mamaroneck, and then my mom decided to move to Florida, and then we moved to Florida, and I was there throughout high school. I did middle school here in New York, and then I did high school in Florida, and then after I graduated high school, I pretty much didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. But ended up just wanting to be in New York City. So I moved to New York when I was 19.
Did you move
by myself? Yeah.
Really? No. Now, were you an artist? Were you doing art? Were you?
No, I was a personal trainer.
Oh, for real?
Yeah,
that actually makes sense.
Yeah, that was a personal trainer. My first job when I was.
But even at 19, that's super young. I mean,
I went for it, man. I was like, I knew that I liked a big city. That was big city dreams. I want to go to a big city. Moved to New York. I had a friend that was like, you can crash on my couch. A friend that's like, you can crash on my couch until you get, your feet wet here in the city. And got a job, moved out, and started my life here. After living in New York for about 6 years, my mom was like, I'm super close to my mom,
I was going to say, we're at the shop.
Yeah, she was like, I'm going to move to New York. I miss you. I don't get to see you, you come once a year if, Yeah. And I was like, all right, let's be closer. Because my dad lives in the Dominican Republic, and he still does to this day.
Right. Okay. So he never moved out. You have a relationship with your dad, or not?
Yeah. We have a really good relationship. He has other kids, so it's different, you know. 'Cause
Right.
For me and my mom, it's just we just have each other. My
Right.
dad has other family.
Are you the only You're the only kid?
No, my dad I have two
Well,
brothers.
with your mom.
With my
I should
mom,
say.
yeah, I'm the only kid with my mom.
So
we have
everybody
that
else is
strong
your
bond.
stepbrother.
Yeah, bunch of
Yeah.
stepbrothers, one sister.
Well, I mean, a Hispanic family, Italian families, like the bond between the mother and the sons
Yeah,
is usually pretty fucking
It's big.
legit. It's serious.
yeah, it is.
You know, like when my mom passed, it was like, I mean, I wasn't one of these guys that like wants to throw himself off a fucking building, but it was a traumatic experience. I mean,
Yeah, man. It's
you
like, you know, she's, you know, mom's, it helps me to this day, you know?
that's a big. Again, like I said, when I walk in the shop, I'm like, motherfucker, this guy's like stereotypical Hispanic fucking mom's like right there hooking him up, taking care of him and stuff.
Yeah.
You
She
know?
still helps out, you know, and, you know, it's wild because at one point when I told her I wanted to be a tattoo artist, it was one of those things that she was like, you what? You know,
Well, how old were you when you made that decision?
I was 25 years old.
Oh, so you're pretty old.
You know, yeah. When I moved to New York at 19, I was still working in fitness. I worked in fitness till that point in time. And I had a really good job in fitness. And I was on a good, like, corporate ladder of that world.
Were you working for like a major gym? Like it wasn't like just some podunk gym.
No. I was working for a very, very good company that had like kind of luxury style gyms. And I was already a manager there, and I was like in charge of the club.
Oh shit!
So I was like, you know, I got scouted from a different company by that company because I was doing really well in that field. That was something I was passionate about, and
so you very well could have made a living doing it. I mean, a career out of that.
Yes,
a
absolutely.
retirable career. Now you're in a fucking non-retirable.
Like I know.
What was it that sparked tattooing? I mean, did you get into it? Like, did you start getting tattooed? How does that happen?
So I started just getting tattooed. At that point, the vice president of the company I was at was covered in tattoos. And I was like, would it be cool if I started getting tattoos? He's like, oh shit, dude, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
We're in fitness, bro. And I was like, oh, this is great.
But it's funny though, especially corporate. Like,
Yeah.
And back then, it wasn't like that was nowadays. I mean,
Yeah.
we have a cop in the next room getting his fucking hands tattooed.
Yeah.
I think back then it was a little different, you know?
It was a little different, but like, this is now like, you know, early 2000s. And this guy, his name was Randy, and he was just like one of the best salespeople that I've ever, you know, worked with. And he was just such a good motivator. And he just kind of showed me that you can pave your own way, you know? He's like, yeah, I've been doing this for so long, and I can look like this because I'm good at what I do.
Right.
Like, you know, the people above me, they're like, they don't care, you deliver. So I started kind of going by that of like, you know, you just got to perform.
Just
you
make your presence known and know full well that you cannot be replaced easily.
Absolutely.
You know.
So I did that, and he was helping me out a lot, kind of coaching me. And I remember the day that I told him that I was like, I think I want to leave and I want to go back to school. And he was like, well, why don't you just stay and I'll make your schedule more flexible so you can go to school. I started going to school for graphic design.
Oh shit.
Because I wanted to go back to art. I loved art since I was a kid, and I was like, I want to go back to art. I started doing graphic design and still wanted to stay in fitness, and then I just became friends with the guy that was tattooing me at the time.
Who was the guy?
His name is Eddie, and he owned, you know, a tattoo shop in Manhattan, in like Washington Heights, and it was like by chance. I didn't know anything about tattooing. I literally went to a shop. Somebody was like, "Oh, there's a good guy over there. You should go check him out." Just went there. But he was actually a really cool guy. We became good friends, and then I would hang out at the shop, and I liked the shop environment. And I was that guy that, you know, he one day was like, "Hey man, like they were drawing, kind of like an art night type deal," and I joined them. And they were like, "Dude, you're pretty good." And I'm like, "Yeah, I go to school for this and all that stuff." And he was like, "You ever thought about like apprenticing?" And I'm like, "No, not at all."
What year was this?
This is like maybe 2005.
So the apprenticeship thing is still kind of happening. People are like, because I mean, although I guess it never ended. Like,
yeah.
When I got in '93, that's when guys were opening up multiple shops and they were bringing in more apprentices,
Mm-hmm.
but not to the degree in like the like 2000, early 2000s, where people were bringing in 2 and 3 apprentices, because that's when you realized, oh, I can get him to do this, I can get the guy to do this, I can get the guy to do that. You know?
So I didn't know anything about tattooing, so I was like, I don't know, I'll think about it. And then eventually I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? He sold it to me, but like, just come by, see how you like the environment, see if you want to do this. And I did.
And it wasn't like a biker style shop?
It wasn't a biker style shop, but it was a walk-in shop, a lot of like, fast bang kind of like, names and small tribals and like just small tattoos.
Fucking money.
Yeah, money tattoos. And in his shop, you would do, 10 tattoos in a day, 12 tattoos in a day of that style.
Right.
Now, what was tricky was that, I was an apprentice, and after I was there for about 6 months, he let me do a tattoo on a person. And it came out okay, and then as soon as that was okay, he was like, all right, you're going to do anything that's like this.
As an apprentice?
As an apprentice.
For free, or you?
No, he was charging. Yeah. He was charging. Yeah. I wasn't charging.
You weren't the same.
Yeah.
So it's funny, like my apprenticeship lasted, I had 2 weeks of bullshit. I was in the shop like scrubbing needles, because we used to clean needles back then and reuse them, scrubbing tubes. He was a bit anal when it came to cleaning the shop, so I did little cleaning. Yeah. But for the most part, he did that. And then whatever else he asked me to do. But that lasted 2 weeks, and doing a lot of flash. I must have done 20 sheets of cartoon flash, and Tasmanian devils fucking lifting weights, and Tweety birds lifting weights, like everything was something with lifting weights.
Lifting weights or ripping out of the skin.
Exactly. But then 2 weeks of free tattoos, which was exactly 13 tattoos, and then I started tattooing.
And he was like, "You're working."
And yeah, literally, because I went in one day. I've said it before, like I worked all day. I did one free tattoo in the afternoon, and then around 10, it was like 9:45 at night. He came up and he's like, "You want to do this?" And it was like a dragon head about that big. And I'm like, "Yeah, where?" And he's like, "Chest." And I'm like, "Cool." He's like, $60. And I'm like, "Pardon?"
What?
He's like, $60. And I'm like, "For money?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I want to do that." And it never stopped. I literally was just nonstop tattooing. And it was like, and that was great. I mean, just because it was the same type of shop.
Yeah.
Bangers.
You're bangers all day. Now, what was interesting about the way he ran his shop was that he had everybody was on a strict, like everybody even that was that there were maybe 3 or 4 guys there. And everybody was getting paid a weekly salary.
Right.
And they were tattooing.
Back then.
Yes. But I didn't know anything about tattooing. I'm completely just...
Right.
So I don't know if this is just this or if this is just how things are done in tattooing. Right. I don't know. I never even went anywhere else to ask around or anything like that. So he was like, yeah, so this artist, he's been here this long. He gets paid this much. And everybody kind of had like a flat rate that they would do. He priced every tattoo that came through the door and then delegated, you're going to do that, you're going to do this, you're going to do that.
That's surprising for back then. I mean, the first time I'd ever heard something like that, I think it might have been Dino Cook down in Georgia. And he had a partner who wasn't a tattooer. Yeah. So he had a legitimate, there was somebody who actually ran numbers and did shit for him. They were one of the first shops that did something like that, where they took money out of your check and, you had health insurance. Kind of stuff. And that would have been like, maybe maybe 2000, about 2006, 2007. And back then it was like, who the fuck is doing that? Yeah. Like, how is anybody allowing that to happen? Yeah. But to hear that in New York, I don't think I'd ever heard anybody in New York do something like that.
Neither have I, and I've talked about that until this day. I haven't heard it for anybody else, I don't know how he learned that system, but that's how he did it. And, there was a guy there that was doing, sometimes 2 portraits a day,
Shit, he's still getting paid a salary.
And he's still getting paid a salary.
Now, the pricing back then wasn't as insane as it is now.
Right.
Back then, you probably, when I started, it was $100 an hour. Eventually moved up to 105, 150 back in like 2000. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that would have been maybe $150, especially in New York.
Yeah, the price was completely different. Yeah, pricing was completely different. And, but overall, I was just happy to be there. I wasn't getting paid anything because I was an apprentice. I wasn't getting paid nothing.
Just those days where you go into work every fucking day and you could not wait to get there and really didn't want to leave.
Yes, that's how the days were. And I was super excited to be there, and it was exciting. And I was still going to school, and one day, one of my professors was like, "Man, I see you very disconnected from here." And I was like, "I've been doing this tattoo apprenticeship and I really love it." And she was like, "Then maybe that's what you should be doing."
So did you drop out of school then?
And then I dropped out of school.
Shit.
And I went in all in on tattooing.
It's amazing, the schooling, because I've got friends that are, illustrators. That's what they do for a living. And, now they do a lot of, it's kind of the stuff online. They do a lot of they do stuff in person too, but a lot of it is online. And they're the first ones to be like, yeah, don't go to school anymore. School right now is just overrated, expensive, and there's a good chance you ain't going to get the job you want. Yeah. So you're better off doing it this way at your own leisure, at your own pace, pay for it as you can, Yeah. Where back then it was more about, making fucking money.
Making
So it's
money.
rare to hear a teacher.
Yeah, and my professor said that to me, and it was like one of those like, I think I will, Like I just needed somebody to tell me that, and I was like, I think I'm gonna do this. Dropped out of school that semester, and then like told my family. They're like, oh my god, this is crazy.
It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, because I was like, I'm gonna leave school. I'm gonna have to leave my job, and I need a. I was living by myself at the time, but I was like,
right.
I asked my mom, I was like, can I crash on your couch during the next 6 months or so?
So you get your feet on you.
Until I figure this out, and that's what I did. And It was like, on it, And at that point, I don't think that she had any idea what I was going to do, but she just believed in me.
How long were you in that shop?
And I was in that shop for about a year.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah. So I was in that shop for about a year.
And what did you do after that?
Then after that, after a year, I asked the guy, I was like, hey, like, I want to start getting paid.
Yeah. I want to start making money.
Like, I need to make some money, And then he hit me with like I'll give you $200 a week.
Dude, that's fucking insane. I guess it's not totally insane. I remember in 2001, I think it was 2001, 2000. It might have been a little bit, maybe 2004. No, it would have been later. It would have been 2005 or 6 when I tattooed Lalo for the first time.
Yeah.
And he came up with a bunch of other cats that I think they were all working in Queens.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, the guy they worked for was not a tattooer. I don't know. He might have been. I don't know if he was Jewish or Russian or whatever. But the shit that this guy, he was same thing, paying them like
this is
a
your
day
wage.
rate. Yeah, this is what you're getting paid. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? I thought it was the most asinine thing I'd ever heard.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe it's not that unheard of. Like coming from Long Island where everything was 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think till this day it's still 50-50. I mean, you try to push shit like that here up in New England, and people just be like, yeah, fucking pony up a couple more percent.
I don't know, man. Like.
So you're 50-50 where you're at with your guys. And you don't have to talk about it if you don't want.
No, I'm open to talk about it. But like the more I've tried everything because I came from an artist perspective that I was like, oh man, like I really wish somebody would have offered me this when I was in that position. Yeah. And now being on the other end where I'm responsible for the shop and for everything that's going on. Now I understand more of like why I've given artists, the percentage that they want. And then after a year, 2 years, 3 years, and then I look back at everything, I'm like, this is not making any sense,
For you as a business owner.
Right, for me as a business owner. I'm like, this is not making sense.
I think that's something, and I think we'll start seeing more of it as things progress throughout the years. And this is what's scary. As a business owner, you're going to have more people making demands on you, not realizing that, while your cost of living is going up, what do you think is happening with the shop?
Everything.
You know what I mean? Like, your rent is ridiculous.
Insane.
My rent here, because we're in New England, is not quite the same, but it's also slightly cheaper to live here. I can't charge what New Yorkers are charging. That's the one thing we get all the time. People come to the door and they're just like, oh man, I went to New York and this cost me like,
this much.
Yeah, for a tattoo this big, $1,500. They come here and it costs them $800.
Yeah.
And they're like, why are you guys so much cheaper? And I'm like, because that's what a tattoo should cost.
Yeah.
Like, I'm of the opinion that the tattoo you got that you paid $1,500 for is really not all that good. And if that's what New Yorkers are charging, then there should be a fucking test to tattoo anywhere in the fucking 5 boroughs. And if you're not that fucking good, then you go fucking off the island. And then fucking let somebody else fucking do that tattoo that deserves $1,500 tattoo.
I mean, I just think
that sounds bitter, but I am.
If you get a beer at your favorite baseball, basketball, football stadium, how much are you paying for that beer? And it's because it's the location of where you're getting it, and if you're gonna get it from here. You got no choice.
The problem with that mentality is the fact that we all know that's fucking bullshit.
It is bullshit.
And there's no fucking reason.
But we can't go around it because they're adding more to the price of that beer than just the value.
And I get that. I mean, like, I go into New York and I know it's going to cost me X amount of dollars to go out to dinner, to drink, whatever. I understand that. Any major city, we've both traveled the world.
Yeah.
It also blows my mind when I can go to Rome and pay a tenth
of everything. Yeah,
anything.
It's insane.
And it's and you've got the I'm not staring down a fucking bum on the street. I'm in Rome. So I do understand that, but I still find it very frustrating. And again, I understand your point of view is as a business owner, things just keep getting harder and harder and harder. So what are your thoughts on private studios and all these cats that are bouncing out and doing their own thing? And how do you think? I personally think it's and everybody's going to act at this me being a dick, but I think it's hurting the business, the integrity of the business, and it's setting unrealistic expectations for most of our clients. Not to mention the fact that the shenanigans we hear going on in most shops.
Yes.
And most private studios.
And what I think about the private studios, it's a matter of like there's no cohesiveness of the experience that every person's like clientele is getting. You know, so like let's say they're in a private studio, you have somebody that's working with you that shows up late to their appointment all the time, or doesn't communicate with their customer, and then they're going to leave a review on the name of your business. Everybody that's there is going to suffer from it. Or you have that situation where the one guy, the private studio, was busy when they opened it, and then he gets slow and then hits you with I'm sorry, man, I can't pay rent. Now, that still has to get covered. And these things happen because it's really hard to maintain that kind of fluidity within a shop without having someone take the responsibility of all of those things. And when I've been in that situation when I open up a private studio with a group of friends, and everybody goes in with good intent, but then life changes things, and things change, and then somebody's gonna end up,
So how long was it? So did you bounce around quite a bit, or did you go right into like that first year after you just fucked off? And
that first year after, I took the best 12 tattoos that I had made. They weren't that great and they weren't that many, of course. And I was like, I'm gonna go to shops. And I went to 3 shops, and then I ended up going to Big Joe's Tattoo in White Plains.
Okay.
Because I knew that it was going to be a busy walk-in street shop type of deal.
And you learn more by doing.
Yeah, and I knew that that's where I kind of needed to be. And I went there, and I tattooed there for about 3.5 years, and it was great.
Nice.
Great experience. Learned so much.
It wasn't my experience. I never had a personal experience. I know other people that have had gone in there to buy gear and whatever.
Yeah,
and they weren't treated very nice.
Yeah.
they were kind of forced out of the fucking shop. Did you ever get anything like that in that shop? Or that was kind of a bikerish.
It was a bikerish shop, but that's also kind of part of the thing that I loved about it. It was everything every day was let's see what happens today.
It's a learning experience.
And it felt just so. It was a fun place to go to work and just hear stories from people that have been tattooing for 20 years.
That's one of those things I always tell people, that growing up in certain shops and certain environments, it wasn't necessarily about turning you into a badass.
No,
it was life lessons.
It was life lessons.
You deal with it and you figure out how to fucking make it work.
Yeah,
and then you move to the next day.
Yeah.
And again, working with certain guys, we had an old biker guy we used to work with. Dude, the fucking stories were fucking nightmare fuel. Fucking straight up nightmare fuel. But, dude, I cannot tell you how many times we would sit in the fucking shop, sitting around the workstations, just talking shit, feet up.
Yeah.
We're done. We should be going home. It's 11:30 at night.
Yeah.
There's no reason to be sitting here listening to this fucking nightmare speak. But they were amazing stories.
Yeah.
Do I wish I was there? Fuck no. But to hear it as a fly on the fucking wall, it was amazing.
It was amazing. I saw crazy people, crazy stories, and it was a great time in tattooing where I felt like it was busy, man. It was busy. People just came into the shop and wanted to get small tattoos, big tattoos, and people were excited about tattooing. And TV shows weren't full on yet.
I think you had Hart and Huntington, and you had
Miami Ink.
And Miami Ink, I think, to me, everybody says Hart and Huntington was the first film, the first movie, the first show. But it was Miami Ink, I think that's for sure. Bar for how people now go to a tattoo or find a tattooer.
Yeah.
And then the etiquette that they have to have, because at that point, every fucking tattoo's got to have a story.
Yeah, people wanted a story behind the tattoo. And people were coming into tattoo shops with they didn't know what was going to happen still. There was there was no Instagram yet. So, but still people had that curiosity and were excited to go to tattoo shops.
Well, we had control, and that's something, again, I've caught. So I've been on your show quite a few times. Not quite a few. I've been on that show twice. But I will admit, the thing that burns my ass on several occasions is I'll say something and it'll go fucking miles
people
to
will
the point where I'm just like, oh God. And the beginning of it will be relatively positive because there are a lot of people that think the way I do.
Absolutely.
But then there is a whole wave of motherfuckers that just don't give a fuck about the way it was.
They're going to say a bunch of shit.
And they're just going to tear into it.
Yeah.
But I also wonder, like, how these people would react if I don't even think that. First of all, I don't think they'd get into tattooing.
Yes.
Back in like the early '90s, like
Yes.
there was no fucking way. But again, it was a completely different world, different type of person.
Yes.
You know, and that's why it's scary with the private studios now, because that's what's being bred now. Clients and tattooers. They don't want to talk. They don't want to think. They just want to sit there, plug into their fucking phone, and just have the guy do his thing. Or they're gonna control it something awful.
Man, I think that's true, and I think though that we're at a point where it's changing. I feel like we're at a point where it's slightly changing, and people are wanting to have more. Both the artists want to be in a place where they have more interaction.
Yes.
Because sometimes you sign up for this private studio, and then you realize that you're going to be there by yourself most of the time, because everybody's only going to show up for their appointments, and that's it. You know, so their whole like aspect of community is kind of lost, even though that's what the idea was supposed to be.
Exactly. It was to create this environment of creativity.
Yeah.
But
where does that go? They got tattoos from like 6 to 9, and then somebody shows up early and they leave by like 2.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, there's only like you're kind of tattooing still by yourself, and you don't have that balance of ideas and challenging. And I think like competition is one of the most healthy fucking things that you could have.
And ego, the fact of the matter, ego creates competition, and that's one of the things in a shop with more than 2 people.
Yeah,
there's going to be
some kind of want to keep going, and I feel like that's the healthy way of like good competition. You know, like that's essential, and I feel like that pushes you. If you have somebody next to you that's a great tattooer, and you see that next. Man, you just want to get the best out of yourself that day.
Exactly. So for me personally, and I'm going to ask you if you had this kind of a situation. When I left Long Island, so Corey Kruger and I did a private studio, which I wasn't keen on doing, but it was also, I was moving to New Hampshire, knew nothing about it. He wanted to get out of the shop he was in. And he is one of those weirdo, quiet, doesn't react well to crowds. Like he's that guy. Yeah. But to me, he was such an incredibly talented human being, and I'm sure anybody who knows Corey Kruger knows what I'm talking about. It's fucking stupid. Yeah. So when I left that shop, when I left Lotus Tattoo on Long Island, you know, it was because I wanted to become a better tattooer. Plus, leaving Long Island's a big deal. If you grew up on the island, you never leave. Like, you know what I mean? Like when I started traveling, it opened my eyes up to so much more. Again, it was a life. It wasn't about tattooing. This was about tattooing. This was about going to work with somebody who was better than I was. We go in as equals, but I never looked at it that way. Like I would be like, hey, what do you think of this? And he'd be like, okay, cool. Change this, and this. I'm like, cool, man, that's only the whole fucking thing. I swear to God, dude.
That's everything.
Exactly. I swear to God, if I'm doing a pinup and I'm doing this and she's on a tire and he's like, yeah, I would change this and I turn this around and I do this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, okay, that's the entire fucking drawing. So apparently there's nothing good about this. But to his credit, I did the changes and the tattoo was 110 times better. You don't get that by not listening to what other people have to say. Have you ever gone out of your way to, and again, when you open your own studio, did you go out of your way to find individuals that you admired and wanted to learn from, or is it something that just kind of happened and you're happy with the way it happened?
So the guys that opened up No Idols with me, all amazing artists that I respected, and over time, it's changed a lot, you know. And like the guys that started the shop with me, at one point, none of them worked there. They all left at one point, and it was one of the scenarios where like we opened the shop together, but for each person's personal reasons, they were like, I wanted to do this, but now I can't. But I stayed at the shop and people filled their spots. Right. And some of those people have made the shop be what it is today. Right. And they're still at the shop with me. And I appreciate those guys so much because without them, you know, there's no way that the synergy of the shop can work. Yeah. Like,
you had a lot of drama in that shop too in the beginning. Like, we're not going to get into it, but that was the thing. I remember people just like, you doing whose podcast? Like, dude, whatever. We're adults. Like I can do whatever the fuck I want. I can be friends with everybody. You know? There was a lot of drama because of that, and that was at a time where I think where names were really starting to get like if somebody said something, other people listened. Right. I mean, that's always been a little bit of the case. It's always been kind of like that. But back then, it was like you could be fucking ostracized. Like that.
People were like, "Oh, I don't deal with that person," which is something that like sucks in tattooing. That sometimes it gets so cliquey that people will dissociate with you. You know, because of somebody.
I think tattooing now is more cliquey than it ever fucking was.
But I feel like there's more pockets of it. You know, like it's like there's small little pockets of groups, and I don't know if it's for the better or worse, but at least I feel like there's different values kind of being spread around.
It does bum me out. And again, I have been insanely vocal about speaking out about the younger generation of tattooer. And it's not because I'm angry. Well, I'm angry. I'm always fucking angry. But it's not so much that. It's also just, and again, I'm not looking for the old days to come back. I'm not looking for bloodbaths and shit like that. You know what I mean? Which a lot of people, I think, assume I am, which is not the case. I mean, I've made a career on getting to know everybody. I know you. I'm good friends with Teresa Sharp. Yeah. I know DJ really well. And I know a lot of different generations of tattooer. I get along with almost everybody, There are a lot of people I don't get along with. A lot of them are from my generation or just below my generation. But it's because I look at everybody as an individual, not as, oh, he's only been tattooing for fucking 4 years. What could he possibly know? You know? It's never been like that. Oh, he's an anime artist. Granted, I'll make fun of shit.
Yeah, me too.
All fucking day long. But it's not about that. It's about the creativity of individuals and the personal character of that individual. That means an awful lot. I think you guys seem to have a really good crew. I mean, I've only gotten really friendly with you, Matt, Gabe. Oh my God. Yeah, I've gotten so friendly. But yeah, the other crew, like, they're always in and out and stuff like that. And it seems like everybody's really, really cool. And for the most part, they only work at No Idols, or is it like a typical New Yorker where they're bouncing from shop to shop?
Yeah, those guys, they only work at No Idols. Almost everybody at the shop works only at No Idols except for one person, but they do one day in Brooklyn, and the rest of the week they're at the shop.
They're at the shop, okay.
Which I don't mind. I don't mind if artists are in other, parts of the city. Because at the end of the day, you're just building networks, and I feel like that doesn't bother me too much.
It is harder. Like, we've had people here that are just like, well, I'm going to work here 2 days a week. I'm like, no. Yeah. You either work here 5 days a week or you don't.
Or you don't.
And again, it's also because I don't want to have to worry about, well, your client started here and now he's over there.
Right.
And it makes for a more difficult, it just makes it more difficult.
It does make it more difficult. I had an artist, who I had to let go not too long ago, just because we had a conversation about them being at the shop. And I'm like, you're rarely at the shop. Like, if you want that station, you have to be at the station.
You can have somebody else there.
Yeah, because I could have someone else there. And it's like, well, and their response to me was like, well, I don't need to be there because I'm an independent contractor and you don't have any rights to give me any hours. And I'm like, I also don't have, any reason to give you a station or a place to work at.
Yeah. So that's where independent contractor takes on a murky description.
Right.
Because realistically, technically, nobody can be an independent contractor anymore.
Yeah.
I'm dropping our draws here. We say that because it's an easy way to get around it. But I mean, when taxes are done and everything at the end of the year is done and who's under the wire and who's not. Yeah, that's one of those things where the shop takes on a lot of responsibility, and that's why it does.
And liabilities. Which, if something happens in your shop, even though they're independent contractor, it's going to come down to your shop.
Exactly. And that's why I've often wondered how many of these independent, these little studios, these private studios, do have
carry insurance.
Because not for nothing, God forbid. I mean, it's not only that. I mean, we have three different types of insurance at this point. You have the building foot, you have the slip and fall, you have the liability insurance. I mean, dude, it's fucking expensive.
It's expensive as hell. Yeah.
So it does change. I hope this makes people a little bit more aware of why certain shop owners. I will admit there are a lot of shop owners out there that are scumbags.
Absolutely.
You worked for one apparently. Even though you were friends. But I mean, it changes the way things are. So the way I got to meet you, and I'm pretty certain I'm correct in this.
Yes.
You did the first season of Best Ink.
I did the first season of Best Ink. Before that, you probably just knew me by face, just from being in the tattoo world.
That's why I asked that. Because there's a lot of people that say, no, man, actually, I met you 3 years before. And I'm like, dude, I don't remember. Like Matt. Yeah. Like when I went to the shop, and he's like, you don't remember me. And I'm like, no. He's like, you fucking tattooed me like 9 years ago. And I'm like, hey, how's it going? You know? But that's typical.
I mean, so many tats, so many conventions, so many travels. You can only remember so many faces. I feel like that's the truth. But after I was on the first season of Best Ink, I was only tattooing maybe, I would say 5 years at that point.
Right.
And it was 5 years, before there was such a wealth of information out there.
Exactly.
Where it was a lot slower to get information and get coaching and things like that. But at that point, it was...
Well, I remember, so Best Ink, I think the biggest issue with Best Ink was the fact that the crew that they brought in, you had really amazing tattooers,
Mhm.
and then you had Chafe. You had people that were just kind of like, yeah, the guy's gonna be gone.
That's gonna be the worst guy.
Like first episode, that guy's fucking gone. Second episode, she's going. But it was one of those things. Like I remember being genuinely impressed by, I'd say, half of the people on the show, and I'm not looking to put anybody down, but it was the truth. The thing with me, I think, having done the show was, and again, I didn't see anything from your perspective because I wasn't really allowed to. Like I saw everything that happened on camera in the studio. I didn't see any of the other bullshit that you guys had to deal with. But it was, to me, I was like, I'm looking to toe the line. I was asked to do it. I said, fuck no. And then I heard who else they were asking to do it. And I'm like, I will interview for it. You know what I mean? And I took the job. What was going through your fucking head when you did it? Because people have often said, like, especially on the last podcast I did with you guys, I don't even remember what the fuck we were talking. I think I said something about tattoos suck. Tattooers suck. Because they are. They're opportunists, and some of them are douchebags. But a lot of people think, oh, this is coming from the guy who was on television.
Oh, right. Somebody said some shit like that.
So to me, I look at it from the perspective of, I didn't answer any of the stuff. Anything that went bad, I was just like, you know what, let them have their fucking say. But to me, it was like, yeah, dude, if somebody doesn't take some responsibility for our industry, then we really can't afford to complain about what happens in our industry. And that was my responsibility that I took upon myself, probably more than I should have for our trade, but I did. What was going through your fucking head? Because I got to argue a lot behind the scenes. And that's probably why, it's probably one of the reasons our show only lasted 3 seasons. Because I was a fucking mess. I argued every little fucking thing. What made you decide to do it? Like, because this is a brand new day and age.
Yeah. So I had a friend, and he was like, hey man, I heard they're doing a casting for a new tattoo television show. You'd be so good for it. I think you'd be amazing for it. Like, come on, dude. Like, you're like, I was popular shop guy, and he was like, you need to go, dude. Like, you got that face. You need to go. And I was like, you know what? I'll go just to this. I had no idea what it was about. Not even one remote clue. And I drove to Philadelphia.
So you didn't know it was a competition show? Nothing?
No, nothing. I knew nothing about it. It was just new tattoo show. No idea what was going on. Drove to Philly, did like an open kind of casting. There were maybe 20 people there, and I got a call back. And 20 people in my round. There was there was 50 or 60 people. Yeah. And it was like groups of 20 where they got to give you an opportunity to talk. Got a second audition where I did a green screen, type of thing. And then after that, they were like, well, why don't you be on the show? I'm like, what's it about? You'll find out.
Wow, they really kept it that much of a secret.
Yeah, they're like, you'll find out, and even at that point, because it was there was no tattoo competition shows at that point, so you really had no idea.
I knew about it because I had heard through the grapevine that Chris was doing one, and I immediately called him when they reached out to me, and I was like, dude, are you really doing this? Because that's the rumor. And he's like, yeah, we're doing it. Yep. I'm like, fuck. And he's like, well, are you going to do it? I'm like, I did one interview on Skype. They want me to fly out there and meet me. And he was just like, yeah, dude. He's like, but I'm starting to talk money. And he's just like, yeah, man, you're not going to make any money until third or fourth or fifth season. I'm like, dude, this ain't going to go one season. Especially with me up front. But, so now how much prep time did you have before? And if you, again, this may be boring to most people, but I almost want to know, because how much prep time did you have before you actually went out there?
So when I got it was maybe 2 months.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was 2 months, and then after that, it was all right, that day I'm leaving, and I have to prep to let people know I'm going to be out of town. And that's it. Shit. And went to California, stayed there the whole time, and overall, it was it was so different than Ink Master. Just Ink Master was such a very perfectly orchestrated.
Ink Master, by the time you went on it, I would imagine
they've got this thing down to a T. Everything's just so fluid and. In Best Ink, they were still figuring it out. They were figuring it out. Same thing,
but I would imagine Ink Master, their first few seasons,
for sure, they were probably in the same.
It was like everybody was using the same fucking playbook from the stupid blacklight inks and the fucking sand art and all kinds of dumb shit. I'm like, who is coming up with this? This is before AI. I could see if you're plugging it in AI and two AIs just telling you, oh, this is the most pertinent thing. No,
and that was the same year that Instagram kind of started being. A big thing also. It just started coming out. So
we were big on Twitter. We had to do a lot of Twitter shit.
Twitter was going, but other than that, there was social media still hadn't taken off to the monster that it is today.
Right. So After that, you came in third place there.
I did.
And we will touch on that shortly.
Ah, shit.
But well, before that, how many friends did you make in the first season, in your season of
in my season, I got
besting?
really, really good friends with Roman, with London, and with Alexis. You know, we all got really close, and we all traveled together a bunch. You know, and
I think it was the most experienced individuals.
Yeah.
And not to say that you don't think you may have had the same experiences they did, although I don't think London did either. But Alexis she'd been tattooing.
Yeah, she'd been tattooing for a while.
Like 12 years or something like that. 15 years
so.
at that time.
She had some time in there. And Roman was Roman, you know?
Yeah,
Roman was freaking Roman.
So you bounce out of there. What's the first thing you do? You've traveled extensively.
That's what it was.
Was it before or after the show?
Before that, I only traveled like in the northeast of the U.S.
Because when I've talked to you on certain things or heard your podcast, you've mentioned, I spent a month here, I spent a month there. Like, what is some of the
after that, after I like went on the show and I kind of had like more emails from different places, I was like, I'm going to just travel.
Best Ink was big in Europe.
It was big in
Europe.
I
remember going to Italy.
When I went out in Italy and France, it was big. So
fucking stupid.
Getting all these emails, I was like, I'm going to travel. So then I went to Spain, you know. It was crazy to walk around Spain and people were like, oh, you know, like scream at me from across. Like, oh, this is crazy, you know, people stopping you at airports and all that stuff. And then like went to, you know, Italy, France, Spain, Switzerland, and I would do these shows and it was like incredible experience.
Right.
It was awesome.
So now how important do you think that was to you as an individual? So for me, I would say it was more important for me as an individual to get these life experiences. But it didn't help. It didn't hurt my tattooing career as well. What was your thoughts on it? Like, how important do you think it is for a younger tattooer to kind of get out there and experience not just the United States, but different cultures and different, you know?
Man, I feel like it's such a personal. If you feel it within yourself, like that's what you have to do, go do it. Don't waste any time and do it as fast as you can, because as life gets more complicated and you're trying to settle down or you have kids or you get married, things are going to get more difficult to get away and just rip away from everything. So it was something that I had a passion for doing. Like when I started tattooing, you know, I would always read the blog from Tim Hendricks.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And he's actually, he's another well-traveled individual.
Yes. And and that's when people had blogs and they wrote a blog on their website and you got to just go to their website and read it.
Yeah.
And all his blogs were just so inspiring to me.
He had the one where they drank cobra blood.
Yeah, like all that stuff. I was like, damn, this is fucking, like, that's what I want to fucking do.
I want to drink cobra blood.
I want to drink cobra blood somewhere out in freaking Thailand or whatever. You know, like I wanted to do these things. So like as soon as I found the opportunity, I'm like, that's it, man. I'm going to keep my costs of living low and like.
And this is before the shop, obviously?
This is before the shop. Okay. And my goal was just to travel. And for a while, like, traveling gave me that, like, living in the moment feeling every day.
Yeah. You
know, every day felt like an adventure. You know, I'm not thinking long term. I don't really have a savings account. I'm literally just on the road and just...
Got your gear and just doing it.
I'm just doing it. And that was one of the most, like, fun time of my life, just being able to experience that. It was great.
I remember in 94, one of the guys I worked for told me, he's like, this is the only job that allows you to pack up your shit, go, get in a car, get on a plane, go someplace else and do this and make money and travel while making money.
Yes.
And I didn't start doing it until I think 95.
Mm-hmm.
I think I started my first trip, first conventions. And then 96 was my first big 3 weeks away, you know, road trip in the States. And dude, I never looked back to a detrimental end.
Yeah.
So having said that, I still travel quite a bit, but it does affect my home career.
Yeah.
Because I own a shop, and being away, people assume you're always going to be away.
Yeah.
So you're no longer accessible.
Yes.
Which is bullshit. How does that? Because you're still traveling a bit, probably not as much as you were back in the day. But how is that affecting you now that you own a shop?
So like now that I own a shop, I rarely travel, and I didn't have a son back then.
So that's another thing. Your whole life has changed.
My whole life has changed. I have a kid. I have a business. I'm steady. Like I really like being home, but it took me a lot of traveling before I decided that like, okay, I think I want to slow down and just be home, be close to my family, close to my friends, you know, set some roots. But before that, it was a matter of like life experience. I wanted to go to Europe. I wanted to go to China. I wanted to go to Australia. I wanted to do all these things. I just want to do this. And I was just living every day like it was like, man, I don't know what's going to happen later. But absolutely right. I learned when I came back home that I had to kind of build business.
You have to nurture it.
You have to like build it all over again. People have to know that you're going to be around.
Yeah. That was the thing. I think in the beginning, like as soon as I got home and I made it known to everybody, people jumped all over it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They were just like, oh, I got to get in now. I got to get in now. I got to get in now before you go away again. I'm like, dude, I'm home for like,
I'm gonna be
3
chilling.
weeks. Forget it, you know? But people jumped on it. But I do know that years and years have gone by, and it's changed dramatically the way people now people are just like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll catch you when I catch you.
Yeah.
It's just like it sucks because it does hurt your career, or your business in general. I tell people all the time, it's like make sure you have a home base that you can contact people and be like, yeah, dude, I'm home for the next 6 months or whatever it's going to be. You know?
Yes.
I think that's an incredibly important thing.
Man.
But I would imagine having children, having a kid.
It changed a lot of that. But even before that, like now in hindsight, right? What I think about the most is that my first 10 years of tattooing, everything that I was making literally went to 1, traveling, 2, getting tattooed.
Yeah.
That's where all my money went.
So now when you say getting tattooed, have you ever been tattooed overseas?
Not overseas, but around the country. Because I haven't gotten too many. I have gotten tattooed overseas, but like smaller pieces.
Right.
But when I was here in New York, I would always get tattooed. Seth would, after I had like some small tattoos, I kind of loved his work, and I was like, I want to get a huge tattoo.
Did you start your front or your arm while you were on the show?
My front.
Yeah, because I remember being
I came in, I already had my whole front lined up.
This kid's got some fucking, he knows his shit.
Yeah, I was like, I want to get huge tattoos. I want my whole front done.
Because Seth was one of those guys that was like, he was starting to come, because we did an art show downtown New Haven when we first opened up the shop. I think it was like the 3rd year we opened the shop. And he came up to drop off his artwork. And it was the first time I'd met him. Super nice guy.
Super nice guy.
But he was still really young at
Yeah.
that point. And I think Grime had just done an article, and he called out a bunch of motherfuckers.
Oh, shit.
And he was like, so what do you think about the Grime article? And I'm like, he ain't talking about me. Like, that was all I said to him. I was like, dude, he's talking about you, not me. Like, I made my mark. Like, I left it. Like, people know who I am. They think you're him. It's more on you than it is on me. Like, I think it's fucked up, but he ain't calling me out. I don't give a fuck.
Oh, shit.
I thought that was pretty funny. That was like the first time I met Seth, and he was just like, the fuck's that supposed to mean? I'm like, that was the truth, man. You're the young guy, not me.
Man.
You know?
But Seth is somebody that inspired me heavily early on. And, you know, I told some younger tattooers, I was like, this whole idea of like these seminars and like courses, the courses were go get tattooed by your favorite tattooer. That was my tattoo course. Like getting huge tattoos and spending a lot of time with one of my favorite tattooers, seeing like their process, how they work, how they tattoo.
Yep.
And you got to get some big tattoos to make that like really long term.
Exactly. Because you've got to get to know somebody. If you sit in the chair for a 45-minute banger, I mean, you can pick stuff up. Yeah. But you're not having the opportunity to sit there and talk and shoot the shit with somebody. No. Having them trust you because you're sitting there and spending copious amounts of money as opposed to $200. Like, but whenever I did the seminars back in the day, and again, people call us out, my generation out, as being like, well, you fucking did it first. Yeah. Like, you're the ones who made the problem. And I'm like, not necessarily. At that time, you didn't have the internet. So the only way you got to learn was to get in a fucking car, get on a plane, go somewhere, and either get tattooed or go to sit in a seminar. Yeah. And usually that was at a convention. So not only did you get to sit in on a seminar, but you also had the opportunity to get tattooed by countless people. Yeah. You know, so it was a different day and age. Now with the internet, you got like, you know, you download shit. You fucking, like back in the day, they bootlegged videos that we used to do that I gave away at the seminar. I'd be like, oh, here's a DVD. This is everything that I covered on the seminar. And then some cocksucker puts it on a fucking rips it. Sends it. Yeah. I mean, dude, if you go on YouTube, you can see videos that I fucking produced back in, and they weren't videos. They were like stuff, handouts for my client, for the people that took the course. But dude, that's for free now all over the fucking world. Like millions of people have seen it. And it's like, I'm getting called out for that. I'm like, dude, that's not me. That's me giving something to a client who sat with me, and I, you know, it's like, yeah, here, take this. It's got this, you know, a reminder. Yeah. Have you ever done any kind of seminars, or your experience has literally been with sitting and somebody in the chair?
Sitting in the chair, except for this past weekend, I did the Paradise Tattoo Gathering.
Oh, I do want to. I want to.
I know we're gonna talk about that, but I took 3 seminars during that, and it was cool. It was a good experience. You know, it was from tattooers that I've always liked their work, and I was like, I just want to see what they're gonna teach and how they're gonna teach it.
How? That's the big thing. What
they're gonna teach, how they're gonna teach it, and also it was almost like one of those like field reporting. I was like, I gotta go. You know, like. I talk about this. I need to go and like experience it so I can really see.
If you don't have a leg, if you don't have a point of view, because you actually sat down and did it, then you really can't talk.
You really can't see.
You know what I mean? And that's why I'm so shitty about like the TV shows and stuff, because I did go through. And again, I understand I was one of the first guys, but I also have a point of view that there's a reason why I did it, and I realized I can't change shit, so I'm just going to walk away and. Buyer beware kind of bullshit. You know what I mean? But the seminars, so my experience with Paradise was, and I talked about, I don't know if, did you meet Christina from Canada this past week? She's the girl, she got burned a few years ago. A few years ago, a few months ago.
Oh shit.
She's got a whole front and back piece from Steve Moore out of Canada.
No, I don't think I've
Wonderful young woman, incredible tattooer. She was there from Canada with her crew from Black Rabbit up in Canada. I spoke to her in Richmond after I did the Norfolk convention the week prior to Paradise, and I gave her an earful about like, yeah, this is not the Paradise I did back in the day, which was back in 2010 maybe. Okay. I think it was 2011. I don't remember exactly when I did the first 2 years, and back then it was like on fire, dude.
Yeah.
So, like Gabe brought in all these Californian dudes. He brought in a bunch of guys from Europe. Like I think Derb MC the second year of it, like, and it was fucking chock full of people.
Yeah, I remember seeing those events like just in socials and stuff. And I'm like, oh man, that looks like.
And again, before Instagram was a big thing and stuff like that. But I remember the amount of people through the door, and at the end of the second year they did it, I went, yeah, whatever, dude. And he looked at me, he's like, what do you mean? We had this is an incredible experience. I'm like, no, it wasn't. And he's like, why? And I'm like, this was the worst convention I've ever been to. Minus all the bells and whistles.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, there's something to be said for that. So I'm not shitting on the entire thing.
Yeah.
But to me, you could have had, if you had a bigger environment for people to be tattooing while people came out, sat in on the seminars. Like, to me, it's got to be one big ball of fucking crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because if you only got a little bit of crazy, then how much do you get out of it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And again, the promoter, Gabe, doesn't make that much money off it.
Yeah,
so
he
it's
doesn't.
like at that point, why are you doing it?
Why are you doing it? I think, for example, for Gabe, I think he loves tattooing as like an art form. Yes. And I think he likes to kind of showcase it and bring something to the table for it. And overall, with like the Paradise, I went into it with 0 expectation.
Which is smart.
You know, I'm like, 0 expectation. You don't know what this is going to be like. See what it's like. And I was like, oh man, this place, one, is beautiful there.
Yes, that's how they get you.
Yeah, I'm like, this place is beautiful, super peaceful. It feels like you're in like a capsule of like an 80s, like, you know, rom-com or something like that, because it's like that's like how it feels in there.
Yeah.
And then overall, I was like, all right, let's take some seminars, and I got to see a few seminars. Some people weren't there actually. And they started virtually,
which aggravated the fuck out of me.
Initially, I was like, "Oh, this is not what I was expecting."
But you were okay with it.
But I really liked it, because when you're taking a seminar, it's more about the teacher than the information. You know, because like the teacher can make whatever they have to teach very exciting and very like presented really well, and somebody could have a lot of good information, but if they don't know how to relay it, you're like, I don't know. So like the guy that did it, his name's Andre Malcolm.
I was just gonna say he took it, because last year he didn't show. Yeah. And I don't know what the reason was, but I know a lot of people didn't show last year. This year, it seemed like more people were backing out, but they were giving them their options of doing it remotely, so they didn't have to leave their home.
His seminar was awesome.
Was it?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was he's just
and that's right up your wheelhouse. That's in your wheelhouse.
Yeah. Large Japanese, scale work, and I was like, oh man, it's really good information. And what I thought was interesting about having the presenter be in their own space is that it allows them to be more comfortable. Mm-hmm. You know, like, because speaking in front of a group of people is fucking hard. Not a lot of people are good at that at all.
Well, and that's a good point, because that's one of the issues I've always had with when we did the World Tattoo Conference. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say who they were, but the majority of the people in Venice, not the majority, but a good chunk of the people in Venice,
not good public speakers. They're like,
because it's one of those things. It's like, dude, these motherfuckers paid good money to hear you speak. You got to be on point. And again, I'm not blaming them for taking on the job because they probably didn't know they were going to crack.
Yeah,
and that's a shame.
Yeah,
but it's one of those things. Like when you're taking that kind of money and those cats are fucking spending and flying and doing all this stuff. You really got to represent, and that's a big fucking deal.
It's a big deal, and that's a hard fucking job. Like, you could sing a song at your house by yourself in front of a mirror all you want, but as soon as they put a crowd of people right in front of you, you're like,
exactly.
It's heavy.
I've often felt like people like that do better. Like if the convention, if the seminar happens, Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Wednesday night is the night that everybody hangs out. They do the drinking draws. Everybody gets into this super casual. We're just fucking hanging. Yeah, and that's where I think real fire happens. That's where people go. They can ask whatever fucking question they want, unless you're a douchebag. You're gonna answer. Yeah. You know what I mean? You're gonna have real meaningful conversations, and I think that's where the barriers of being a presenter and a fucking student is completely brought down because now you're just peers. Now you're just tattooers. And I think to me, that's what a convention's always been about. Yeah. It's always Saturday night at the convention, because Sunday everybody's packing up and you might get a third to stay. Yeah. But Friday and Saturdays, those are the nights where everybody hangs out. And again, I say the bar because I drink but it's also because it breaks down barriers. Absolutely. It makes people want to connect.
Yeah, I agree. So it was cool to see him in his environment. He was in his studio and he was just like, having a good time talking about something he's so passionate about. Right. So it was like, in that sense, it was like, oh, this is great. It was a really good seminar.
Who else's did you take?
I took Cooper. He's the Superstition. He used to tattoo out in Guru in San Diego.
Oh, okay. Then moved to
Colorado.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about. Yeah. Okay.
Coop, and his stuff was really, really good. And his seminar was great information. But he didn't have as much of like a camera setup, so you could see kind of hands-on what he's doing.
Which is kind of the visual aid helps.
The visual aid helps a lot, But he was a great presenter, Right. Great with words, but having a visual aid every time, like that, Andre was talking about everything in the seminar. It was like over a camera, and you could see visually everything that he's talking about as he's saying it. Right. That worked really well. And then I did a Russ Abbott's seminar.
How was that?
And he did one about shop owners.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was about shop owners.
I mean, he would fucking know about it because he's had a lot of people come through the door for multiple reasons of what we're talking about.
Yes. And one of the best things that from his seminar was like a great breakdown of all the pros and cons of every kind of tattoo business model. Right. Anything from a solo studio to a co-op studio.
That's clever. That's
to a private studio to a percentage. To booth rental based studio, So like it was great to see everything and have somebody
have somebody run numbers.
Numbers.
The fact is Russ is a clever motherfucker. I think it's a shame what happened with the whole Tattoo Smart thing. Yeah. I got out of Tattoo Smart, thank God, before this stuff happened. Because I saw the writing on the walls, and I looked at it from the standpoint of like, yeah, dude, if you're gonna do stuff like this, don't advertise to the general public. And that was the thing. I think when they're doing YouTube channels and they're talking about his fucking scheme, for lack of a better fucking word, I was just like, yeah, you don't say that to the general public, dude. Like you say that to a select few people and they take it to their fucking grave. Because otherwise what happens is what happened with that broad. And
I mean, I think like Russ is really good about creating tools to help tattooers, but when you make a really awesome hammer, you can't prevent somebody from killing a couple of people with it. After you made the hammer, like, this is a great tool. And so they're like, I'm gonna go whack some heads with this, and like that's.
But that's why I say you have to be a little bit more selective. Yeah. And that's again how often obviously you've not done a lot of seminars, but when we've done the Explorer, for instance, and then by the way, I'm dragging a bunch of people under a bus. Whatever. When I did the Explorer, you got people that are, I'm there 30 years of experience. You got Dana Brunson's there, like fucking, you got, not Dana Brunson, Mick Beasley is there, or Tom Beasley. They're there, it's like, you've got experience, and then you've got some kid who's been apprenticing for a month and a half. I'm like, okay, go back to the kid table, man. Like, children should be seen, not heard. I know that sounds really insulting, but fuck it. That was something told to me my entire life growing up. But it's true. It's like they're being kind of like, theories and ideas are being unleashed on somebody that really shouldn't hear this stuff right now, because I think it taints the waters of the direction in which they may eventually go.
Yeah.
And again, I also come from the time where it's like, yeah, do everything and let it pick you. You decide, let it decide what you're really good at.
Yeah.
Don't go in this going, I want to do little black and gray pieces that are going to fall apart in 6 months, because that's what I see on Instagram.
Yeah.
I think that if you do everything, I think you'll end up with a much more well-rounded career, and then you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
Based on what you want to do, what you're good at, not what you think you're gonna want to do and what you think you're gonna be good at. Because how many people do we see doing dumb shit little tattoos that are fucking horrible? There's a couple here in the States.
Man.
I mean, in the state.
Yes.
I look at them like, go away.
What's wild? So one of the things that I'm going to share something that Malcolm said. He's like, now I do a lot of smaller tattoos because that's what people want.
Yeah. And it's also an issue of money, maybe.
Yes. He's like, I do it for work because it's work.
Yeah.
And I'm still a tattooer and I do work. But what I do mostly is these huge back pieces.
Yeah.
But that doesn't, prevent me from doing a smaller tattoo for somebody that wants it, that's fine line and like this. Like,
I think by not pigeonholing yourself, you just give yourself a longer and greater career.
Absolutely. It's wild, but I think that the more that people will learn this with time, and I think that sometimes by the time that they learn this lesson, it's gonna hurt.
Yeah, I was bummed out I didn't go this year. Like last year, Tom and Jackie Strom were here doing a guest spot, and then they were going there right afterward. And Christian and I went up Friday and Saturday night, and I was so disappointed with the turnout of clients, with the turnout of tattooers.
Yeah.
How many tattooers decided not to come out for it, and they didn't offer the digital.
There's
only one or two digital things.
Yeah.
So walking around it and having done it, whatever it was, 8-10 years prior, I was like, dude, this is like a fucking sad husk of what it once was. And then when Tom left, I left Sunday morning, Tom left Monday morning, and he was like, yeah, they're going to do it again next year. And I'm like, what? But again, I'm glad they pulled it off. I mean, like I said, I've known Gabe, since 98, I think.
Well, he mentioned that next year it's going to be only art. There's going to be no tattoo.
Right. Well, I think he said the tattoo thing came about because people asked about it.
Yeah.
And the art thing right now, I think it's a big deal, and you don't have to. There's no expectations of bringing people through the door to have the tattoo. Mm-hmm. And that was the thing. It used to be a tattoo convention as well as. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where with the art, they think they did the first one like that was in New Mexico, I think, and everybody who went to it fucking raved about it.
I think that's what I liked. That's what I liked about it. I liked it was a great sense of community of tattooers there, and in a regular tattoo convention, you have like the client kind of there. Yeah,
they're part of it. They're part of the mix.
They're part of the mix, and what they get is very important. This was all about the tattooers and about them connecting with each other, and it was great. I had one of those moments where it was on Saturday. I was sitting around. Artist comes up to me. He's like, "Hey man, I've seen some of your stuff. I don't even know much about you, but we're gonna go out to dinner with some other people. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, let's go."
Especially if you're by yourself. I mean, that's fucking fantastic.
I was like, "Let's go, man." Went out, had a great conversation with a group of people. Nobody knew each other,
and you didn't know anybody.
I didn't know anybody, and most of us didn't know much about each other, but we got to learn so much about. We had great conversations about tattooing, and I was like, this is the whole point of doing these kinds of events.
And that's true. And that's why me shitting on it is probably a bad thing. You know what I mean? And I say that because, again, and the reason why I'm so down on this stuff is because when you know better.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds egotistical as fuck, but it was so much better back then. So having said that, I get it. And I know it sounds shitty, but it's the truth. So when you see it go from really small and then you're part of the peak. Yeah. And then you see it dropping, and then you see these little bumps in the road where people are trying to catch on. And trust me, dude, I've been to the Explorer. I've been to the fucking World Tattoo Conference. I've done this thing. I've done a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
I so want to see them catch fire. I really fucking do. It's why I take part in them. But I also look at it as like, no, it's done. Drop it. Fucking drop it. Don't waste your time. Don't waste their fucking time. Come up with a better way to fucking do it, or just don't fucking do it.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds harsh, but it's true, especially when people are spending good fucking money to come out and do stuff.
Yes, I agree.
I'm not doing it because I'm just looking to shit on something. But it's because I want to see people get the most out of something.
Well, I think one of the huge things that's going on is that with every organizer of a tattoo event, conventions, they do a convention, it does well. Next year, let's make it bigger. You know? And then next year, we gotta make it bigger. It's like the idea of like every year a company has to report higher earnings.
So, but that,
it's insane.
How frightening is it that that's exactly what's happening in this business?
Yeah.
Now you've got Nexus, you've got all these other fucking corporations buying up fucking people willy-nilly.
Yeah.
Not even willy-nilly. They know full on what they're fucking doing. They're the ones dictating. Like, that's the fucked up thing. We don't get to dictate anymore.
No.
We don't get to set the fucking prices. Fucking Cheyenne set the price on a pen or on a rotary machine, which has nothing to do with tattooing. They set the price at $600.
Yeah.
And then the next year, everybody starts catching up to Cheyenne because that's what they're charging.
That's what,
And now the next one's $800, $900, $1,000, $1,200, $1,300.
Same thing with tattooing. You know, like with the tattooers, they're like, oh, that guy's charging that much? I should be charging just as much or a little bit more.
And that's
it's going to keep going up.
So we get this corporate mentality. But in my opinion, one of the things I told Russ a year and a half ago now, I think it was, this is not sustainable in my eyes. Mm-hmm. And I want to do this for another 15, 20 years. And that's somebody who's been doing this for over 30. I don't want to stop doing this. And I don't want some fucking young gun being like, oh no, that's the way it's done now. Fuck off. You can't do it no more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that, you know, I'm getting picked on from the younger generation, but when you make it inaccessible, you make it to the point where that's just the norm, that's not good.
Yeah.
And that's my problem with it. You know what I mean? That's really my problem.
That's the, you know, if you have a tattoo community, it stays where all these people are kind of supporting and taking care of each other. Commune, right?
Right.
You know?
Right. And don't get me wrong, there are totally pockets of that.
Right. There's pockets of that. But now it's a tattoo industry. And industry is industrialized and has to keep growing and churning out faster product to be able to keep growing, right? So
but here's the crazy part about that.
That's like terminology.
It's like we're churning out product slower, and yet they're charging more because it's more art. Like back in the day when I first started tattooing, it's like you were either good and fast and you charged a lot, or you were good and slow and charged a little. And the idea was when both of you guys reached the finish line, you both charged about the same, and nobody felt like they got burned. You know what I mean? Like I've talked to people about work that was done on me, just fucking showed up. Fucking Nico and James Tex. You know, Nico tattooed me for 5.5 hours. James tattooed me for an hour and a half. Yeah, same space, different tattoos. I'm not gonna, and that was the thing. Like, I'm not gonna say who said what. They were like, oh, well, what's that all about? And I'm like, it's just a different style of tattooing. Yeah, I love them both, but that's the thing. It's like there comes a point where it's like it should. I'd like to think it should be about the same. And again, I know that's an old-fashioned way of thinking, but that's kind of the etiquette of what it used to be back in the day. Yeah. So let's talk about the elephant in the room as far as fucking Ink Master, man.
Oh,
what
man.
the absolute fuck?
What the fuck? So Ink Master.
Now you're not the first one.
Yeah.
DJ technically came in second in his season of Ink Master. The second
Best Ink.
Best Ink, yeah, came in second, and then eventually goes on to
He's a three-peat, Ink Master winner.
Right, it's fucking crazy. Incredible. I mean, I think DJ is incredible.
He's an incredible
tattoo.
Yeah, absolutely. I decided to do it, for different reasons than before. I was like, oh man, it's an opportunity to showcase my work. Also promote all the other things that I kind of wanted to promote. Like you had just started doing the podcast. I was like, I think it'll be good. Let me go for it. But also I wouldn't do it unless I thought that I had a chance to take it all the way.
I would imagine.
You know what I'm saying? Like I don't understand how people choose to do Ink Master,
especially when you see some of the people.
Yes, it boggles my mind. Now, there's people that are like, I'm gonna go do this. I'm like, do you really have any chance? Do you think that you have an opportunity there?
Do you think? And again, I've never been on your end of the camera from that perspective, but do you think it's the production that's really just chatting motherfuckers up and just being like, no, you can go far?
No, I don't think so. Just because I think it's a matter of like, there's people that haven't won in Ink Master before, but were able to turn it into a huge thing for themselves. You know, just huge fan base because those people get to know you, people get to fall in love with you, and feel like they know you. It's like doing a consultation with like 1,000 people at one time per episode, you know? Like people are like,
that's a good
I love this person. They're so sweet. I like their vibe. I like whatever, you know? And people are all way heavy on vibes nowadays. You know? People are heavy on vibes and they're like, oh my God, I love them. I want to follow them. I want to get tattooed by them. So they see this opportunity to just gain a clientele or a fan base. They're not wrong. People get it.
Yeah, right. Totally.
Yeah,
well, I mean, they proved it like this past weekend, or the weekend before last. I did the Norfolk convention, which was put on by J.D. Crow. If anybody doesn't know who J.D. Crow is, he's the guy. He was actually did an episode with me a couple of months ago. He put on the old, like it was like a bunch of the old timers.
Mm-hmm.
Like they did the Richmond convention in like the late '80s, and then and then into the '90s. So he brought all those old guys back. Jack Rudy came out.
That's
Corey
awesome.
Miller it was fucking amazing.
That's awesome.
Problem being is the year he did it the first time, last year, he did it with Jesse Smith.
Yeah.
And it was at the Richmond convention. So it brought a ton of people through the door at Richmond. Jesse felt that Ryan brought more people through the door. It wasn't Jesse. It wasn't, J.D. Crow's thing. So he wanted to bring back more of his friends, the younger generation of tattooer. Fucking JD goes and does his thing the same fucking weekend. Damn. Not smart. And Jesse does Richmond, and he brings in all the fucking masters. Two totally different vibes. I'm still happy I was in Norfolk. I would have still been miserable in fucking Richmond, and they would have never gotten my money anyway. So I don't give a fuck. But it was one of those situations where it was two totally different scenarios. But again, I think that's part of the click thing that we're starting to see is you're bringing clients in that just want to meet individuals. They're not there to get tattooed. No. One of the comparisons I made of that was it's great for the promoter because I remember when Kat Von D, when LA Ink was taking the fuck off, she did the Los Angeles convention, the Hollywood convention, and dude, there must have been 10,000 people there just to get her fucking autograph.
That's wild.
Insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now imagine being a fucking tattooer
there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was literally a line of people. And
Just
all they're doing is standing in
autograph.
front of booths, and none of them are there to get tattooed.
No, that's not what
give a
they're
fuck.
there for.
So you got artists sitting on their fucking hands while all these people are there to get. And again, I'm not holding it against her and her money or whatever. But at that point, the only person that's helping is the promoter. Yeah. Because most of those artists are not going to do a goddamn thing. Because if you didn't put on a good convention, it doesn't matter how many people through the door, because they're there to see one person. And if that's your draw, if that's your lure, that's tough, man. That's a really tough call.
That's why I think like conventions keep getting bigger. All these events keep getting bigger, and they just keep getting more watered down. Yeah. And I think that's kind of where I was glad that at the Paradise gathering, like the courses and all the chat, but small. They were small. I'm talking like 12 people, 20 people within a group, which I think that's good. And like at the end, we were able to have questions and things like that, and the people that were there all got to kind of meet each other a little bit more than having a huge auditorium where it's like I'm not there to watch Tony Robbins, that's
a good point.
You know what I mean?
And that's a good point. That's kind of how the World Tattoo Conferences were.
Yeah.
The one we did in Venice was huge, man. There must have been like 350, 400 people in one big auditorium. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. It's infectious. When you're standing there and you're talking to all these people, it really is that. But it made me yearn for the Saturday night where everybody's with that
a little closer, night, more intimate kind of vibe,
just answering questions and taking photos, and it's just a much more intimate way of dealing with people. Yeah,
and I think that is good overall in like relationships between the shop and its customers. You want to have a nice intimate kind of like they want to feel part of something. Right. Everybody, exactly. You don't want to have this like this. Way bigger than me. No, you want to feel like you're part of it.
You want to feel, and the fact of the matter is if it's only a handful of people there, you're going to get more of that, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
so. But Ink Master, you go back on it.
I go back on it.
It's going to help you in your career beyond, and you're hoping you could actually win.
Yeah. Hoping I can win, hoping I can do it. I have no idea what I'm getting myself into because I know that Ink Master changes things a lot. Yeah. But overall, like it was exactly what I expected it to be. It was hard. harder than I thought, honestly.
Really?
As far as like, your schedule is crazy.
It's nonstop.
It is nonstop. Your days are really long. Showing up on set 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning, you leave and you get back to your hotel at 10 o'clock at night.
So you guys weren't it wasn't another.
We didn't have the shared living situation. It was more of like we all had our independent hotel rooms in the same hotel.
That's cool.
And that was really cool. So you still got to like interact, and at the end of the day, you're like preparing for what's happening the next day, or just like,
Is anybody? Are you able to hang? Are you able to talk about this? Like,
yeah.
Are you able to hang with everybody?
Yeah, you can hang with everybody during that time.
Cameras don't have to be on you every second.
No, not every second.
So that's pretty cool.
Once you're on set and you're mic'd and everything's on you, then yes, everything's game.
Because I remember I stopped watching it after the 3rd season, I think. Because I was like, I'm not interested in this. And again, having done the other show, it's kind of hard to watch this shit because you know a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. You know how producers talk. And I won't assume that I know how Ink Master producers talk, but I'm pretty certain it's not much different.
Man,
like they have an idea of
I love to watch like Ink Master with my girlfriend, and like she'll tell me things like, why did he have to say that after that? I'm like, maybe he didn't even say that about that tattoo at all. Dude, I was like, maybe he said that about what he ate that day.
That happened to Jimmy. This is how fucked up what you just said was. I remember talking to producers. I think it was the 3rd season, and it was 3rd season. And we're talking, and they were just saying something about like liking an individual.
Yeah,
and it's like, yeah, man, and then the audience likes the individual, and then all of a sudden, that individual becomes the bad guy.
Yeah.
And that guy blows the fuck up. And they were so excited about that. I'm like, the fuck is wrong?
This is Machiavellic shit right here.
Yeah. Like, why are you trying to drag this cocksucker down to your fucking level? And the fucked up thing was, I watched it happen to fucking Jimmy Litwalk. Jimmy was like the guy that everybody went to for advice.
Yeah.
Oh, Jimmy, how do I draw this? Jimmy, can you help me with this? Jimmy, can you do this for me? Yeah, no problem. And then there's an episode where he fucking flips out on a bunch of the artists and they're all talking shit about him. So he becomes the fucking bad guy.
Yeah.
And I'm literally watching this as I've had a producer tell me that's exactly what they want to have happen.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, dude, that is fucked up. And it was more fucked up when I found out after the fact that the reason he's yelling and screaming and hollering, where they make it look like he's talking to to the other artist, he's not. He's talking to one of the fucking production people who just served him a plate of fucking brisket covered in fucking blue cheese, knowing full well he's lactose intolerant and can't even fucking eat it. So he's been working for like,
his shit.
Yeah, he's working 8.5, 9 hours. He hasn't eaten since fucking 6 a.m. And here you go, oh, here, Jimmy, here's your brisket. He was like, dude, I'm literally on the phone. He's talking to me on the phone. He's like, dude, when was the last time you heard fucking brisket served with, what do you serve brisket with? I'm like, barbecue sauce. He goes, right. When was the last time you heard brisket served with fucking, with blue cheese dressing? I'm like, never. And he goes, yeah, exactly. He goes, they served me a fucking plate of brisket covered in blue cheese. What the fuck is that? They know I can't eat fucking cheese. Yeah. I'm like, holy shit.
Yes.
They got him like they fucking fish hooked him. Like, this is fucked.
It's little things like, they're like, oh, we're going to get your coffee orders. You're going to get them by 9. Guess what?
Yeah, you'd be lucky to get it by
coffee.
It'll be
You're
ice cold by 11. Yeah.
And guess what? That just gets you a little bit more on edge.
Yeah.
And I feel like all that shit, even though it's fucked up, it's for good TV, man. I'm all with it. Like, I'm like, you know what?
You're a better man than me, dude.
I'm like, you know what? This is going to make great TV. A couple of angry people, a couple of people like soft stop. I'm like, it's going to be good. Get in the game. It's what you signed up for. It was in the fine fucking print on the contract if you didn't realize it. When people say things of like, oh, but the judging, I'm like, did you read the whole contract, dude?
Yeah.
It's no.
Well, dude, I found myself.
Like, it's like, come on.
I found myself defending myself on the show, on the set, because artists thought we only ever got to see the pictures on the screen. And I'm like, dude, I'm here till 11 o'clock at night cleaning your tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm helping them clean, because they didn't have anybody who knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
From what I understand on your show, they had people that tattooed in the area and they came and helped.
Yeah,
like,
which is great.
Dude, we were doing it, or I was doing it. And then eventually, like, Hannah's like, how did you get to see him? I'm like, because I'm here at fucking 7 a.m.
watching everything.
You broads roll up at fucking 3 in the afternoon to get fucking, to get gussied up for fucking camera at 6. I've been here from fucking 7. But again, I made a point in saying, hey, I want to see the tattoos at the end of the night. I'm like, I'll help clean. So I put on gloves, I help clean the tattoos up and stuff. And then at one point, somebody makes a comment, like, that's not what my tattoo. And I'd be like, whoa,
Yeah,
and
I
we
saw
have
it.
to stop it. I think. I mean, I don't know if I said it on your season, but I'm like, yo, man, like we've already seen these fucking. This is just for fucking.
It's just a photo
for everybody to look at something.
Yeah,
it's got nothing to do with the
same
fucking
thing with Ink Master. Shout out to the judges in Ink Master. They also would do the same thing. Like on the days where they had to judge tattoos, they would stay there till super late to make sure that they could see them in person.
Yeah, because that's the only way to judge that kind of
stuff. Yes, and they took it seriously and they cared. But overall, like, you still have it's a TV show and they're going to show. You critique a tattoo, like you critique tattoos for 40 minutes and they're going to show 2 lines.
Oh, literally, yeah. Literally.
2 lines.
Dude, we literally, like, it's funny because, like, usually Sabina would get her lines. She'd talk about stuff. Hannah would throw her 2 cents in. And I don't mean that in a bad way because that sounded shitty. But she would say something, but they'd have a talking point. And then with me, they'd just be like, okay, Joe, go.
1 line.
And I would just go off. I'd just be like, and then I'd ramble on for fucking 15 minutes. Yeah. Like, okay, cool, we're good. And then they would literally use 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And that's all you ever get to see.
That's it.
So none of it from that perspective is very real, which is the shame of, like, to me, I think what bothers me is, like, more people, we talked about this on your show, with the fact that people want to be more ingrained in what's going on. It's not just enough to see the tattoo being done. It's not just enough to see, like, you want to see everything. I think there comes a point where the motherfucking audience needs to fucking stop.
They're like, that's enough.
Yeah, exactly. You've seen enough. But by the same token, I understand, like, they should see us talking about, like, oh, dude, he pulled this line wrong, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Like, this could have been better if he did this, and that. They don't really get any of that. They're just getting these quick little snaps.
That's why it's like, it's 48 minutes of television. It needs to be exciting, not for the artist or tattooer for the common person. Just somebody that tuned in and wants to watch TV. And that show that's who it's made for. It's not made for, like, artists.
No, exactly. Which is why most tattooers hate it.
That's why most tattooers don't watch it. Like, it wasn't made for you. The percentage is very small of you, but everybody else that likes tattoos, way big.
So I was at your shop a couple of weeks before the show actually aired.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, you made it to the end, huh? I was just fucking with you. Yeah. And you were like, yeah, maybe we're fine.
Maybe.
And I'm like, so I was fucking around. I was like, that's the new winner of fucking Ink Master. I didn't know who was on the show.
Yeah.
How did it feel coming in 3rd place again?
Oh, it sucked so bad, dude. Oh, it sucked so bad. Especially because, like, I did, first tattoo, second tattoo. And after the second tattoo, like, I remember one of, like, the producers, like, how you feeling? You think you're going to win this? And I was like, I feel pretty good about it. I'm like, it really depends on this last tattoo. Because, like, I had the first 2, I had such a small amount of time to get everything ready. And then the last tattoo, I had such a small amount of time to, like, really prepare for it. And low on sleep, on, like, tattooing too much. And there's no excuses, Like, it was my best day of tattooing. And
so, what was the tattoo? And if you don't want to talk about
I'm fine with it.
Out, totally, whatever. But the fucking snake.
The snake situation. So the snake situation.
And this is for the finale.
For the finale, yeah. I talked about it in I did a whole podcast episode about it with a bunch of people about it because I thought I was like I want to talk about it,
which is good. Not for nothing. Good on you.
Yeah, man.
Most people,
you want to talk. You want to tackle it head on. Like that's the whole point. And so let's fast, go back to like 2015. I go to Australia. I buy a book from this tattooer, William Yonayama.
I know who it is, yeah.
Super inspired by his work. Love it. Follow this guy for a long time. Literally draw from
which most tattooers do every fucking day.
And to me, it's like, hey man, if you made a book and somebody is replicating what you do because they just love your shit, I don't mean no disrespect. I actually look up to you. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of what it was. And with his snake, I had a Pinterest board pretty much of different snakes I liked. And I was like, oh man, I really like the body of this. And I had my plan of what I was gonna do. Mm-hmm. And I kind of copied the way the body was. It was the
basic shape of the body.
Of the body, how it's gonna move and stuff like that. And after in that moment in time, because I'm drawing this design to be tattooed the very next day, it was one of those things where I didn't really have the time to kind of sit on the design at all. It was just like, oh yeah, I like the design. This looks sick. Go through it. Looking it back in a retrospect, I'm like, oh, that's kind of really close to my reference. But I still don't feel like I did anything wrong,
It was they were definitely from the standpoint of a tattooer, Man, we do that shit every day.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, I'm not looking to demean what other people have done and what we bite, because that's what it is. I mean, we're just biting or definitely laying heavily on the feel of a shape or the direction in which it's going. Like, I mean, I do it every day. I mean, I made my living as a pinup. I made my start as a pinup guy, and it was literally taking the classics and just redrawing them. Like taking the basic overall shape. I mean, if you know anything about pinup work, you're going to be able to look at what I did and go, oh, that's a Gil Ovgren. Oh, that's definitely a fucking George Petty.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a fucking Alberto Vargas. Like, you know where it comes from, but it had my thumbprint on top of it. Because I'm not looking to create my own, at that time especially, because I was young. I'm not looking to create my own overall style. I'm just looking to emulate the things about those things that I really enjoy, but change them enough so you knew I did it.
Yes.
And 9 times out of 10 with me, it was more about color and lines back then than it was about the overall style and shape of the piece. You know, you're taking the basics and running with it.
Yes.
And that's kind of the feel I got from yours.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. And like, you know, I really loved that tattoo. I thought it was really nice. And then like, after the show came out and everything came out, you know, I got a post on Instagram in a tag from William kind of sharing, you know, both tattoos. Like it was of a painting he did. It wasn't even of a tattoo he did. Yeah. It was of a painting that he did. That was never tattooed. And and he posted it and I started getting all these messages. And I immediately sent him a message like, hey man, like I'm sorry if you felt like I, you know, stole from you. That wasn't the point. I was like, I've been a big fan of your work and, you know, you've inspired a lot of the way that I draw my things.
Right.
I bought your book. I'm like, it's not like, you know, it's like somebody that does Japanese that got inspired by Philip Liu, and Philip Liu sends you a message saying like, you're drawing shit
dude,
like me,
not
dude.
for nothing. Philip, Mick, all those guys created a fucking style that to me just added, because they're not traditional Japanese tattooers. No. They're European Japanese tattooers.
Yeah.
And to me, I've always had more of mainly because I came in that time, but I've always had more of a love for that style of Japanese than I've ever had for traditional Japanese.
Traditional, more like,
and it's not that I don't admire that one as much as the other.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to be gravitating towards one or the other, it's definitely going to be that European style because that's the time I came up and that's the style in which I really, really dig. So I totally understand that, and especially when you're biting from a painting. You're biting from a painting versus just another tattoo. Because I mean, you're looking at a sleeve layout, then you're being like, oh, I'm just going to bite this fucking sleeve. And that's something we were taught back in the day. It's like, look at how fucking Horiyoshi does this. Look at how, you know, this guy does that. You do what they do. Just do it your own fucking way.
Yes.
And I still do that to this day.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a trained Japanese style tattooer. That's why I call Joey as Japanese. Because it's not traditional in any way, shape, or form. Nor do I want to be that guy. Yeah. You can look at that as being a bad thing. But to me, it's like, yeah, man, like, I'm not that guy.
My voice.
Yeah, there's people that do that. I would recommend people in a heartbeat to somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure you've had people come up and be like, I want it like this. I want like, then you might want to go to that guy.
You know? But, you know, it really bummed me out. I sent him a message. I sent my apologies. And I was like, and he was like straight up like, I thank you. I understand you, but this is not going to do. I want a public apology. And I was like, don't worry, man. I'll give you a public apology. And I was like, you know, I have this podcast and I'm going to talk about it and I'll give you a public apology.
I watched that one too. If you guys haven't seen it, I'm going to put a link on all your stuff on the bottom of this, and I'll make sure that's on there.
And like, you know, in that place, you know, I was like, it was a great episode because we had so many tattooers on that episode, and I got to like, hey, you guys, what do you guys think?
It wasn't that the one. Did you have other people from the show on
Yes, I had Brian that was on, you know, Brian Black that was on the show. Glendale Bully, freaking Bobby Johnson, you know, you know, was Ink Master. Kevin Leroy, Matt, Gabe. So it was a lot of tattooers.
Yeah, you're not fucking doing this in front of fucking bunch
I'm
of
like,
people who don't
everybody's like looking at it, you know, and like even other tattooers, like, you know, I thought putting this out there and letting the public decide on this,
which is what you should do,
is gonna be the deal, you know. And overall, like what I got from most people were like, yeah, man, it's Japanese tattooing and it's a fucking snake. It doesn't look like a direct trace of this tattoo. It doesn't look exactly the same. Right. You know, like...
I mean, not for nothing, it's what tattooers have been doing since the days of fucking Hokusai. It's like everybody's been just aping, and it just keeps building and building and building. Yeah. And again, not putting anything down, because nowadays you got to worry about every little fucking thing you say. But it's the truth. Most people's careers have been built on the backs of the ancients, and that's the joy of Japanese style tattooing. It's like that's again maybe one of the reasons I'm more geared towards the more European style.
I think it's because it's just such an old style. But when sometimes you see a tattoo and you're like, oh man, like this looks like this could be from Lars Ulf, you know, because neo-traditional is not as old as that,
right.
You know? But you see a tattoo and you're like, oh, this looks like that person. But it's a newer style.
Look at all the guys look at all these young tattooers who probably don't know who Echo is.
Yeah.
Who was one of the first guys to do that style and still doing that incredibly
crushing
well.
It.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it is a shame because it has moved so far beyond, but it's also gotten real cotton candy at this point. Because you can't really tell who does what.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you look at someone like Lars, you look at somebody like Echo, you look at their stuff and you go, oh yeah, that's
that's those guys.
That's those guys.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is, how many people that are digging on the neo-trad being done today that look at their stuff and go, the fucking
what is that? It's just neo-trad, you know, it just gets like, you know.
I want it to look like these crazy blaring colors and fucking no real fucking saturation because we're just gonna take a light brown and whip shade it into pink and just.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think about if, like, back in the day, guys were like, you know, Donatello was like, I did Madonna and Child, and somebody's like, did you see the copy of Madonna and Child?
Yeah, exactly. Well, back then, if you think of those guys were illustrators, I mean, if you think of, they were the first illustrators. Like, you work for the church, you do what we fucking tell you to do, and you fucking go home with a smile on your face and food on the table.
It's like you can't argue. Like everybody did a version of like, oh, he copied the portrait of the king that I did. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, he probably did.
Yeah, exactly. That's because that's all we see. We don't have a photograph to go by anymore.
Like, yeah, it's fine.
So we'll start wrapping it up. You have a podcast, The Honest Tattooer.
Yeah, man.
You want to explain how that started?
So the Honest Tattooer podcast came as an idea. Just one day, I was talking to Matt, and I was like, Matt, we should do a podcast. And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, we just sit down, and you know how we just sit down at the end of the day and just start talking shit? We just record that. That was it.
Yeah.
And he was like, what do you want to call it? And I was like, just call it Honest Tattooer Podcast. Because it's all about being honest and just saying what's on your mind.
Nice.
You don't think about anything. Just say what you want. He was like, oh, that sounds good. And I was like, yeah. Then, like, I kind of gave him an idea for the logo, and then he made it up. And I was like, oh, that looks really cool. And I was like, let's just do it. Let's just buy like a generic like podcast kit,
right? And
let's just record a conversation. And then as we started that, it was like, how do we make this look good? How do we make this sound good? And then over time, you know, like you do one podcast that works, and you're like, why did that work? Why was that exciting? And you start going down the line of like, how do I have better conversations with people? Now I'm gonna
make it work. Now you have to actually plan it.
Yeah. And then little by little, it became a thing that I was like passionate about. And it reminded me of like the very beginning of tattooing. Of like, oh, I'm so excited about this because I'm learning something, all of these new, you know, trades and all these new things. And I'm like, this is exciting. And then after having conversations with certain people that I'm like, oh man, that was a great conversation. Like I feel like I got so much out of it. And I started realizing, I was like, oh man, this could be bigger than what we thought that it could be. And at that time, there were maybe only like 2 or 3 podcasts in tattooing.
So many now.
And we just recently did an interview with somebody, and they were like, yeah, there are about 1,000. And I was like, what? They're like, yeah, worldwide, it's about 1,000 tattoo podcasts.
Fuck, that's crazy.
And you guys are probably in the top 10. And I was like, that's crazy.
Because you've been doing it for now, what? It's 2 years?
Almost 2 years. So, we'll be at 2 years by the end of this year, pretty much. We started like in January, like 2 years ago, almost ago.
Nice.
Since we've done it, we've worked on how to make audio better, how to make, Matt, does a lot of most of all of the editing and the reels and all that stuff. And I try to, make sure that I get good people on the podcast and that I plan the conversations that we're going to have. That way they're nice and fluid and have value to the listener.
You guys do a good job. Like that was one of the reasons when I reached out to you and I'm like, yeah, I want to do this. Because I had wanted to do this, like the same idea of the podcast like 3 years ago. But I was in such a fucking bad place mentally because of the way the business was going. That I'm like, man, I can't bring this energy to this. You know what I mean? It's got to be a little bit more positive. I can't just be shitting on everything. which sucks because every time I do this, I feel like all I'm doing is shitting on stuff, which is not my intention. But it does, like, it is hard. And what you said, exactly, the audio. Like, I got now people are just straight up calling me, you gotta get better audio, dude. And I'm like, fucking working on it, man. Like, I don't have
audio, lighting, editing, like all of these things, like they all matter. And as you start producing, because that's when you realize, like, oh, I'm producing something.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm creating a form of art in its own for the people that know these things, and you start, like, really starting from, like, all right, well, how this is going to look, how is it going to sound? And then you start, that context needs to be good. And when even sometimes you have a good guest, but you have to realize how to get the best out of that guest.
Right.
And everybody has something different that's going to tick. And then you
do a good job in the sense of, like, you zig and zag really well. Like, you have an idea of the direction you want to take yourself in.
Yeah. But
you're also pretty good about putting yourself in their shoes to a degree, and being able to agree or disagree. You know what I mean? So, because you're not like I am, where it's just like, no, fuck that.
Fuck that.
Yeah. It's not like that. You do a good job that way.
Yeah, that's what Gabe's for. Gabe is the one that says fuck that.
I was just saying, both you and Matt are really good at being like the kind of the middle guy. You could play both sides.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're a bit malleable in that sense.
Yeah.
But Gabe is like, no,
fuck that.
No.
You guys are insane.
I think the last podcast I did with you guys, like, it was like the only time he ever spoke up was when I said something. He's like, yeah, what he said, and then we were just ripping off each other.
Man.
That was fun.
And I feel like that's kind of like that chemistry, and like we've always been that way. Like we'll have, like, I feel like I'm in one place, Matt's in the middle, Gabe's all the way on the other side, and we kind of bounce around with each other's ideas. And I feel like that's what creates great banter.
Right, exactly.
And good dialogue. And then overall, like, we all love tattooing. That's really what it is.
Right.
We all love tattooing. We all respect each other as tattooers, and we all motivate each other a lot. So being in that, I feel like it's something that's essential. And one thing that I realized is that those things don't last forever.
Right.
Like being with a group of people that you get along so well and inspire with each other, that doesn't last forever. So the moments in your career where you get to really have that, cherish it, enjoy it. And in our case, we decided to start recording it.
Right.
And I feel like overall that's just made us closer and feel like we're all together in this a little bit more.
That's cool. I'm glad you guys did, because, I mean, a lot of tattooers have always said, like, you could be sitting around at breakfast, you could be sitting around at dinner, be sitting around the bar at the end of the night, and all you keep thinking in the back of your mind is like, dude, if anybody else could sit in on this right now, they would be blown away by the thing. And the thing that always got me was I could be with a friend. Like, I was with my friend Lyle Hardy last year, and we're sitting in his living room, and I'm like, God, I wish I had a camera. I want everybody to experience this, man.
Like, this is good.
There's so much richness there. There's so much uniqueness, and there's so much just personality, which is, in all honesty, lacking in this business.
Well, and I thought it's a time for, I was like, it has to come down to us, but I feel like there's a loss of the younger tattooer looking for the older tattooer for guiding experience and knowledge. Yeah. It's just that simple, like there's people that have been doing this for so long, listen to their stories, like, it's like, but I feel like overall in society, people are more like off-put by talking to their
peers
and their elders, like there's like this war of like, we know better, and it's like, no, man, like even if you do, still listen to a different perspective, because that will help you broaden the way that you look at things.
Broaden your own horizon.
Absolutely. So I thought that was like the value of the podcast and something that we like to look at, and we like to have both like young tattooers, old tattooers, and everything in between, just to be able to get as many perspectives, as much like information and knowledge, and then that way it gives us a better kind of idea of where we're all at.
Right. I'm glad to hear that, man. I'm glad to hear. I hope you guys do this for a very long time.
Me too.
So, is there anything you have on the horizon that you want to talk about, or?
Let me see. What else? What else is going on? I'm not doing many conventions. I'm doing maybe one scheduled for next year, because I just love being at the shop. Yeah. I love being with the guys. I love doing the show every week. So like, traveling makes it a little bit harder, and I love spending the weekends with my kid. Yeah. So life slowed down, me, my girl, my kid, work. It's kind of like a good flow of things. Nice. But I still love traveling and stuff like that. And now I think I want to do more trips, kind of like the one for this past weekend at Paradise, where I want to start going to some of these conferences where all of these tattooers are going to,
Right.
and talking to them. And I want to, talk to the people putting on the shows, but I want to talk more to the people getting these, you know, because I feel like from this past weekend, I got a good amount of like really good stories from people.
That's cool.
And that should be coming up when I put them out. So.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I will put everything in the description below. I want to thank everybody for sitting in. Thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it.
Man, thank you so much, man.
And again, like and subscribe. Spread the fucking word. See you when I see you.
See you guys. Awesome. That was great.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much, man. Oh, God.